Hi, this is Monday Morning with Cheryl. Things are a little different this morning. I am now in LA for a number of months. I'm working at my former school as an assistant principal. So it's been really great, but I don't have all my stuff here and I'm making do. And so I hope this turns out all right. You'll have to bear with me just a little bit. So a couple weeks ago, I heard a webinar from Cultures of Dignity, and it was all about friendships. And that's something I hadn't talked about on my videos before. So I thought it'd be really fun to think about. I know with kids and even with adults that we often have to navigate relationships. So, one of the things that they were talking about, it's Cultures of Dignity, but it was this woman, Naya Abernathy. I'd never heard of her before, and I'm not sure the name of her nonprofit, but she talked about how that everybody, all of us, have intrinsic worth and we all have dignity and intrinsic worth. So both parties in any relationship, we want to start those on that assumption. And she has 4 pillars that are important to any relationship, and I'm going to try to remember them, although my computer's down here. I just don't have to bend down to look. Healthy boundaries. I think it's quality communication, emotional fluency, and reasonable expectations. So those are 4 basic pillars for any healthy relationship. We know toxic relationships are those that they start to not feel healthy. You don't feel like you belong. Something is off with them. They don't feel good to be in them. And with our children, we want to be very sure that they start to recognize these signs and realize that friendships are a choice. We don't have to be in them, and we want to be sure that when we are in a friendship, it feels good for both parties. So some of the things when you're having these conversations with your children, there's some things to think about. One, never say, well, why don't you just? When you start a sentence off with those words, that implies a lot of judgment on our part. Why don't you just whatever? When we're talking to our children, anyone for this matter, I know I have done this with my own children and friends. Do you want me to listen or do you want me to problem solve with you? So that is something to really think about. Being a good listener is very important, and we don't want to cut off our kids in any way whatsoever. We also want to ask them about specific emotions here. We're talking about this again. Are you feeling disappointed? Are you feeling upset? Another pointer is to say, I know what I would do, but I'm not you. What would you like to do about this? So that is something good to do. And I just want to be sure I've covered all of these. Let me just see. Oh, when they've talked to you, I can't believe I just had to bend down like that, but sorry. Always summarize back what you've heard and say, is this what you're saying? What all of these point out to you is that it's really important to be a good listener for your child. Be sure to see what it is they need from you, so how you can determine how best to support them. And again, this is true for really most anything, not just friendships. And then she ended it, which I thought was something really beautiful, and it's about belonging. Do you feel you belong in this relationship? And do you want to belong? So do you belong in this relationship, and do you want to? So I know friendships are so difficult to navigate with kids of all ages and even ourselves as adults. And I think it's really important that we remember this point that we all have dignity and intrinsic value, and we don't want to stay in relationships that are toxic and not really working for us. And I think it's also important, one last thing, is that we don't need to have a whole lot of friends. They talk about an exercise of concentric circles where you're in the center, your best friends are the closest, and then your acquaintances, and it moves out. And I think the point is that we don't need a lot of friends, and that we have movement among those, where you might have a best friend for a period of time and then they might move out to an outer circle. So we need to have realistic expectations with our friends, and what are those on both sides, and again to think, do we belong in this relationship, and does it feel good? If you have any questions, I would love to answer those. Again, forgive me for all the ups and downs of my head trying to look at the content. I just wanted to be sure I got this out to you, And next time, hopefully, I'll have a better setup. So thanks, and let's pay attention to those friendships.